everybody. Welcome to the virtual version of the twice postponed Edmund S. Muskie Access to Justice Award Dinner. Thank you for tuning in. There are two of us here. I am Bill Black, one of the co-chairs of the Muskie Dinner Committee.
And I'm Rachel Green, the other co-chair of the Muskie Dinner Committee. I, together with Bill Black, Helen Meyer, and Julia Dornbush, wanted to be in touch with you all, given the postponement of this year's dinner, and in the hopes of sustaining the great momentum we've succeeded in building behind the Muskie Dinner cause of access to justice.
This year's dinner has been postponed due to the COVID-19 virus and the need of our community to stay safe. When it is again safe to meet in person, we plan to gather to honor the cause of access to justice and the people in Maine who have done so much to increase access to justice. This year, and at the Muskie Dinner that will take place, we hope, in May or June next year, we are celebrating Mary Bonato.
In the meantime, we wanted to use this opportunity to highlight why we selected Mary and why we are so excited to honor her next year. Mary Bonato has so many accomplishments, it will really take a proper Muskie Dinner to do justice to her contributions, but here are a few highlights. Mary is the Civil Rights Project Director at GLBTQ Legal Advocates and Defenders, previously known as GLAAD. In 2015, she successfully argued before the US Supreme Court in Obergefell v. Hodges, which established the freedom to marry for same-sex couples nationwide. For now, though, I'd like to quickly note some of the many ways that she has advanced the causes of equity and justice right here in Maine. Her early work in Maine included supporting University of Maine faculty and staff in achieving the first state recognition of domestic partnerships in 1996, and successfully representing the city of Portland when its domestic partnership ordinance was challenged in 2004. She worked for the successful addition of sexual orientation and gender identity to Maine's anti-discrimination law in 2005. She has represented youth at Long Creek and serves on the Juvenile Justice Reinvestment Task Force, the Chief Justice's Child Welfare Task Force, and a Department of Education task force on implementation of the anti-bullying law. With Mary's leadership and advocacy, and in collaboration with Jody Nofsinger and the Maine Human Rights Commission, GLAAD won a groundbreaking 2014 ruling that transgender students must be respected for who they are at school, and in 2019 helped draft and pass Maine's conversion therapy ban. This is just an abbreviated listing of Mary's accomplishments and should give you a good idea of why we can't wait to gather in person in 2021 to celebrate her powerful work.
We also want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, many of whom have allowed us to distribute the funds they donated directly to the legal aid providers this year, despite there being no dinner. They recognize the need for legal aid providers to continue operating in our Maine communities.
Finally, we'd like to thank the host committee, a group of longtime and some new Muskie Dinner supporters, all of whom wanted to make a special contribution to the 2020 Muskie Dinner in recognition of Mary and the important work performed by the legal aid providers. Now let's hear from those providers about the work they've been doing.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Stout. I'm the new interim executive director at the Volunteer Lawyers Project. I'm so sorry that the Muskie Dinner is not happening this year. It's always a great event to get together with our colleagues and celebrate all the hard work that's gone in to increase access to justice for people of Maine. This year at the Volunteer Lawyers Project, we remain stunned and devastated by the loss of our founder and executive director, Juliette Holmes-Smith. Juliette made the Volunteer Lawyer Project as an independent organization happen. With her vision and leadership, she has grown and developed the Volunteer Lawyers Project and put in place new avenues of providing legal services to underserved populations in our state. She implemented new legal services clinics. You may be familiar with the Courthouse Assistance Project that provides legal services in family matters at 10 different locations around the state. Well, Juliette went farther than that. She created a homeless rights clinic in conjunction with the Preble Street Resource Center, a workers' rights clinic in partnership with the Southern Maine Workers Center. We worked with Acadia Hospital to provide legal services to patients in the hospital. We have a small claims clinic that assists people going through that part of court process. And in response to the pandemic, Juliet implemented a small business clinic to assist business owners on COVID-related problems. And this was on top of the helpline that was running consistently, the Free Legal Answers Maine, our web portal, and of course, our signature program, Full Representation by Pro Bono Attorneys. I'm amazed at the scope of her work and the impact that she has had. We do have more to do. We are in the process of restarting our clinics with a remote format. We are working with the courts and clerks of court to provide additional legal assistance to victims of domestic violence. We are focused on expanding our services in rural areas, particularly in Oxford, Franklin, and Androscoggin counties. In northern Maine, Penobscot, Hancock, and Waldo counties will see their clinics go live probably in November. And we have our eyes on Somerset, Piscataquis, Washington, and Aroostook counties, because we do have a bit of a silver lining here with this pandemic. We've developed new ways to provide legal services remotely and maybe remove geography as one of the barriers. I am completely humbled by the virtual army of volunteers that support the Volunteer Lawyers Project. Every day, attorneys and non-attorneys, there are many, many kind people who go to work and provide their time and talent to increasing access to justice for Mainers. I'm also so grateful to our financial supporters, the Muskie Fund for Legal Services, and of course the Campaign for Justice, all the donors who provide funding for these invaluable services. I appreciate your contributions. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
My name is Nan Heald, and I am the Executive Director of Pine Tree Legal Assistance. I am so disappointed not to see you all in person this year, and I look forward to in-person events when it's safe to gather. But in the meantime, I wanted to share a brief update from Pine Tree Legal Assistance. Back in 1966, concerned that low-income Mainers were being excluded from the promise of justice for all, several Maine attorneys, led by a utilities lawyer named Pat Brewster, worked hard to establish legal aid for the poor in our state. Pine Tree opened its doors in 1967, and for the past 53 years, we have been using legal advocacy to help Maine's most vulnerable residents overcome pressing problems of everyday life: domestic and sexual violence, homelessness, economic insecurity, financial exploitation, employment issues, and others. Pine Tree was founded in the belief that there should be fairness, justice, and equality for all, and that if we can instill more fairness in our society, there will be less poverty. These days, most Pine Tree people are working from home, but all remain determined to do as much as possible to address the old and new injustices facing our clients. Pine Tree continues to advance its mission of providing direct legal assistance and also creating updated self-help resources for all Maine residents throughout the state, including many specific to the new laws and procedures as a result of COVID-19. Every day we read new stories about the legal challenges that Mainers are facing. This summer, we saw an increase in illegal evictions throughout the state, threatening to force Maine families with children onto the street in the midst of a pandemic. While the courts have remained open to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, the pandemic has created special challenges for them in seeking safety and justice. Low-wage workers, migrant farm workers, all face greater risks of contracting COVID-19 and losing access to income. Events in 2020 have also spotlighted issues of inequality, inequity, and disparate treatment of minorities. The work of Pine Tree Legal Assistance and the other legal aid providers in our state is needed now more than ever before. We can't lose sight of the role that legal aid organizations play in helping the most vulnerable among us and in shaping systems and policies. Thank you all for supporting the Muskie Fund for Legal Services and making our work possible.
So hi, everyone. My name is Robin Merrill, and I'm the Executive Director with Maine Equal Justice. I want to thank you all for supporting Civil Legal Aid here in Maine, for supporting Maine Equal Justice, and for supporting all of the other civil legal aid organizations that are doing incredibly important work during these challenging and uncertain times. I've been just really impressed by the work of my colleagues and others to really pull together, to collaborate and coordinate, and responding to the critical needs and increased needs we've been seeing for people with low income across the state. With the pandemic, 6 months ago, a lot of us had to respond really swiftly to meet people's needs in a time of crisis. And we certainly saw an increase in demand for the help and assistance that we provide, and I know that was true for others as well. Maine Equal Justice, we are focused on increasing economic security and opportunity and equity for people in Maine. And we do that advocating for people with low income in all three branches of government. So we're advocating at the legislature for fair laws and policies for people with low income. We're also advocating in the administrative branch, in the executive branch, working with state agencies to do administrative advocacy on behalf of people with low income. And we're also in the courts, really focusing on impact litigation to represent groups of folks with low income who are similarly situated and representing their rights and interests there. We provide a fair amount of direct legal assistance too. And during this time, we've certainly seen an uptick in the number of people who are reaching out for help, who are experiencing poverty, who have experienced job loss, who are facing an eviction. Many people who have never had to rely on public assistance before, who now need to turn to public assistance to make ends meet. So we've been providing a lot of assistance to people trying to kind of navigate those systems and programs. And with that, we've also really tried to do more training and education to get information out to people so that they know what resources and supports are available to them during this time. So we've been doing a fair amount of training and education around unemployment insurance, for example, where a lot of people have needed to get assistance while out of work and are trying to access unemployment insurance, which hasn't always been easy for people. So really trying to support people in doing that. And with that, it's like connecting and working with specific communities to try to ensure that they're able to get the help they need. So for example, we worked closely with the Cambodian Community Association of Maine after there was a COVID outbreak at Tyson Foods, and a lot of folks were coming down with COVID-19, and a lot of employees were concerned and worried and trying to kind of navigate that and figure out what to do. So we provided some training and assistance to folks around that, and then also created a screening tool to help people access unemployment insurance, people who can't get online, who face other barriers to applying and getting the help they need. So we created an easy screening tool partnering with Maine DOL and the career centers to really help people access that support. So we're all trying to be creative and coming up with new and different ways in these times to respond to people's needs, to meet them, their immediate needs. And then also we're really focusing on systemic change and policy change to respond to people's needs and the underlying kind of causes in terms of poverty and why people are facing the hardship they're facing, and looking to make changes there. And that also includes addressing racial justice, where we know that there's a lot of work to do in terms of addressing structural and systemic racism. And there's a lot of opportunity in this moment to really take that on and change systems to ensure that everybody has equal opportunity and access to support services they need to thrive. And so we're really busy doing a lot of work to address those issues too at a systemic structural level. So there's lots to do, and I know all of us are really doing everything we can to rise to these challenges and meet this moment, and continue to meet the needs of people so that they can get by and get through these times. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for supporting Civil Legal Aid. and the work that we're all doing to really ensure that people can get by, that people get the help they need when they face legal problems that can just have significant impact in terms of their lives and overall significant impact on our state as a whole. So thank you so much. Deeply appreciate your support. Take care.
Hi, I'm Jay Martin, Executive Director of Legal Services for the Elderly. LSE provides free legal help on a statewide basis to Maine seniors when their basic human needs are at stake and they face legal problems that are going to interfere with their ability to meet those needs. This includes things like housing, safety, healthcare, and food. We also provide extensive Medicare advocacy services, including helping with appeals and helping people who can't afford their prescription drugs under Medicare Part D. While we're serving nearly 6,000 people a year, many, many more could benefit from our help. That is why support from our generous donors is so important, because it lets us help more people. COVID-19 has brought a lot of challenges, and there's more on the horizon. The immediate challenge for LSE was beginning to conduct very complicated hearings via video conference or telephone conference. That's important because the people we serve, the seniors we serve, are at heightened risk from dying from the virus, and we want to help them avoid public settings when we can, and that includes the courts and the courthouses. On the horizon, there's even more COVID challenges. There's a backlog of evictions and foreclosures that is going to hit the courts eventually. And we've seen a big increase in elder abuse because seniors are stuck in situations in their homes where the perpetrator of the abuse is also in the home, and the senior is spending, if not all of their time in the home, then more of their time to avoid, again, coming in contact with the virus. You might ask, when you support LSE and the providers, what difference does your donation make? I'm going to give you just one example. We helped a 75-year-old woman, a widow, who was living in her own home. The home was valued at over $80,000, but it was all she had. She and her deceased husband had paid off the mortgage decades ago and raised their family in that home. The woman had some health problems, and a family member that had recently moved back to Maine offered to help out. She moved in, and she did some housework and some routine chores for a couple of days. But after only 2 days, she invited a notary to come to the house, and a deed was executed transferring the house from the family member to our client, this woman, this elderly woman. The elderly woman was told that this was going to protect her house if she needed long-term care. 3 months later, she received an eviction notice. She called LSE for help after she was told to pack it up and move to senior housing. An LSE attorney brought a civil action in Superior Court to recover the home, and soon after, the family member transferred the house back to this woman. By supporting the providers, you're helping this woman and many, many, many more like her that would not be able to meet their basic human needs if they didn't have the help of a lawyer to solve their legal problems. From all of us at LSE, the board, the staff, and our clients, we thank you for your support.
Thank you so much for supporting ILAP and Maine's other civil legal aid providers. ILAP is Maine's only immigration legal aid organization. With offices in Portland and Lewiston and a traveling rural Maine project, we provide legal services and outreach to over 5,000 individuals each year throughout the state, from York to Aroostook counties. We also participate in systemic advocacy to improve laws and policies impacting immigrants in Maine. ILAP represents clients in a wide range of matters, from asylum and immigration protections for children and victims of domestic violence and trafficking, to helping families avoid being separated through deportation. When our clients gain legal status and begin their pathway to citizenship, they can better engage in Maine's economy and communities. In addition to our staff attorneys, we also have over 170 pro bono attorneys who participate on our asylum panel, volunteering close to $1 million worth of their time each year, representing hundreds of asylum seekers who would face danger in their home countries. These past 4 years have been brutal for our clients, with harsh new immigration policies and enforcement measures, making it more difficult for them to gain legal status or asylum protections. and the global pandemic has brought another layer of complexity to their lives. Immigrants and people of color are getting sick and dying of COVID-19 at disproportionate rates, and they are more likely to be frontline workers or to be furloughed without the benefit of CARES Act protections. At the same time, the government is exploiting the crisis to further block asylum, separate families, and weaken the due process protections of our immigration system. The over-policing of Black communities and communities of color continues, along with racially biased immigration enforcement, detention, and deportation efforts. Through the pandemic, ILAP staff continue to work remotely, helping clients get out of immigration detention, making sure that asylum seekers meet their one-year filing deadlines, and helping immigrant victims of domestic violence who are trapped and isolated in abusive relationships made more dangerous with social distancing measures. At the same time, we are using technology to expand our reach. We've created and launched a multilingual online intake system. We have new self-help guides and client education materials on our website. Our attorneys are conducting virtual outreach events to share important immigration law updates with Maine's immigrant communities and service providers. Thank you so much for your support, which has allowed us to do this work during these challenging times.
First of all, thank you all for your support of the Muskie Fund for Legal Services. It's really a shame that we weren't able to get together in person this year. I always look forward to the Muskie Dinner as an opportunity to get together with attorneys I often don't see, and to see us pay tribute to someone who has made a significant impact in the world of access to justice. So I'm looking forward to seeing many of you at next year's Muskie Dinner. The Cumberland Legal Aid Clinic is a program of the University of Maine School of Law. We are actually in our 50th year this year. We're one of the oldest continuously operating legal aid clinics in a law school in the country. We are, all of the work that's done in the clinic is done by law students at the University of Maine School of Law. They're all second and third year law students. All of the students receive their own caseload. They have their own clients, and these are real clients with real problems, and many of the problems are really quite serious. And the students do all of the legal work on the cases, everything from the intake to filing in court and arguing in court, doing trials, and even arguing before the Maine Supreme Judicial Court. It's really amazing the work that our students do. And how are they able to do this? They're able to do this because of the great relationship we have with the Maine courts. They've enacted student practice rules, which allow Maine law students to have this wonderful experience and to help Mainers in need before they even graduate from law school. And that's because they're doing everything under the very close supervision of the clinic faculty. So in the clinic, our law students help about 600 Mainers every year in a wide range of programs. We have a general practice clinic where we do a lot of work with family law, with probate law, criminal law, some administrative law. We have a juvenile justice clinic where students are helping children and youth, both who are in the juvenile justice system, as well as through our wonderful collaboration with the Preble Street Teen Center, doing outreach there, and doing policy development projects that have a broad impact for young people throughout the state of Maine. We have a prisoner assistance clinic where our students help prisoners who are incarcerated with civil problems. We have a refugee and human rights clinic helping new Mainers achieve status. And students in all of our clinics participate in our Protection from Abuse project, helping people who obtain protection from abuse orders on the basis of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. So I'm often asked, what has the impact of COVID been on the clinic's program? How are you able to do all of this? Well, I just have to say how amazed I have been at the hard work, at the creativity, and the dedication of the clinic student attorneys, as well as our faculty and staff throughout the start of this pandemic. We have been able to maintain all of our programs straight through this pandemic. We've had to make a lot of adjustments, and a lot of those adjustments, without question, have added challenges to us, and they have presented additional costs to us. But we've been very determined to try to maintain the same level of service and to help all of those Mainers that we have long helped, even through this pandemic, because the reality is that people need our help more than ever, and it's not the time for us to be cutting back on our services. So we're continuing to do in-person legal representation and protection from abuse matters in Lewiston District Court, for example. It's one of the busiest PFA dockets in the state. Our students are continuing to go there every week to provide representation. During the most lockdown period of the pandemic, we still continue to help people even remotely by doing remote negotiation as part of our partnership with the Volunteer Lawyers Project. But as soon as those governor's orders were lifted, we were going back to Lewiston Court to help people in person so that they could really have the highest level of assistance that we could provide to them. We're continuing to help children and youth in juvenile detention proceedings and as lawyer of the day. We're doing as much outreach to try to reach new Mainers who are being held in the Cumberland County Jail, for example, on ICE charges, to make sure that they have access to counsel. All of these things are very difficult when it's hard for us to go into the prison, to go into the jail, to be able to reach our clients. But we've worked really hard to make the best use of technology that we can, to make sure that we're able to reach people and that people are able to reach us to ask for and to receive the assistance that they need. So it's definitely been challenging, but our students, I think, are learning a whole new set of skills in addition to all the lawyering skills that they have always learned in the clinic about how to represent clients, how to be advocates. They're also learning a lot of remote practice skills right now, how to make the best use of technology and ensure that people are still being well served, that they're still fulfilling their professional obligations to their clients, that they're still effective advocates in court, even if much of this is being done via telephone or via video conferencing. So again, I just want to, on behalf of all the students, faculty, staff, and clients of the Cumberland Legal Aid Clinic of the University of Maine School of Law, I want to thank you for your support of the Muskie Dinner this year, and thank you for your support in past years. It's a wonderful tradition. It's a wonderful way that so many people in Maine and so many businesses are able to support the mission of civil legal aid in Maine. So again, thank you for your support.
Thank you to Deirdre, Jay, Sue, Robin, Nan, and Liz for sharing those updates from our legal aid providers. As we heard, the need for civil legal aid is high and will likely continue to increase as we emerge from the pandemic and the economic downturn.
We'd like to thank everybody who's contributed to the Muskie Fund for Legal Services this year, even though we will not be having our annual dinner. Your contributions will go directly to the legal aid providers to help Maine's most vulnerable residents.
Justice for all depends on your support of Maine's legal aid providers. Helping the poor with housing, healthcare, and other civil issues pays off for the community. So we need to give more support to the cause of access to justice.
If you would like to make an additional contribution, we hope you will donate to the Campaign for Justice, which also passes those donations on directly to Maine's legal aid providers. You can donate today at campaignforjustice.org. That's campaignforjustice.org. Thank you to my co-chair, Rachel Green.
And thank you, Bill. And thanks to everyone out there. Stay safe and healthy.